You're sitting in your car, parked in the lot outside work, engine off, just sitting there for a minute before you go in, and you're looking at the dashboard, the leather seats, the screen with the backup camera, all of it. And somewhere in the back of your head, the number appears, $450, every month for the next 4 years. You tell yourself it's fine. You needed a reliable car, it's a reasonable payment for what you're making, and it's not like you bought something crazy, it's a practical car, a responsible choice. That's what you told yourself at the dealership, and you still mostly believe it. But there's this quiet thing that happens every month when that payment clears. You look at your account, and something just tightens. You can't quite afford to save this month. Again. You'll start properly saving next month, or after the next raise. And the car just sits there, looking perfectly reasonable, costing you far more than you realize. My name's Peter, and if you've ever wondered why your car payment feels normal, but your savings account feels impossible, and what those two things have to do with each other, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the math here is going to reframe the way you see that monthly payment completely.
Let's start with the full picture of what that $450 car payment actually exists inside. You're making $65,000 a year. That's a solid, respectable income. After taxes, federal, state, FICA, you're bringing home about $4,100 a month. Okay, that's workable. Rent. You're in a mid-sized city. 1 bedroom, decent neighborhood, nothing fancy. $1,550 a month. That's $18,600 a year just to have a place to sleep. You're at $2,550. Car payment, $450. That's $5,400 a year. You're at $2,100. Car insurance. And here's the thing. When you have a newer financed car, you're required to carry full coverage. So you're not paying $120 a month like your friend with the paid-off Honda. You're paying $190 a month. That's $2,280 a year. You're at $1,910. Student loans. $300 a month, $3,600 a year. You're at $1,610. Health insurance through work, $165 a month. You're at $1,445. Phone and utilities, $175 a month. You're at $1,270. Groceries, $360 a month. Cooking at home most nights, you're at $910. Gas, and you've got a newer car, but it's still a car, $130 a month. You're at $780. That's $780 left for the entire month, before anything fun, before anything unexpected, before savings, before the oil change the dealer reminder card says is due, before anything. And here's what's interesting. Nothing on that list is irresponsible. Nothing. You're not buying luxury items. You're not eating at restaurants every night. You're just living with a car payment. And somehow, $780 is what's left from $4,100. And out of that $780, you're supposed to save, build an emergency fund, invest for retirement, have something left over for being a person who does things. It doesn't add up, and you know it doesn't add up, but the car payment feels fixed, so you look everywhere else to cut. Most people think the car payment is just part of adult life. You need transportation, cars cost money, a payment is how you afford a reliable car. That's just how it works. That's not how it works. That's the trap. Here's what the car industry figured out decades ago. People don't buy cars based on price. They buy cars based on monthly payments. You walk into a dealership and they never ask, how much do you want to spend? They ask, what can you handle monthly? Because that's the number your brain can evaluate. $450 a month sounds manageable. $27,000 sounds like a lot of money. But here's the thing. Those are the same thing. Over a 60-month loan, $450 a month is $27,000, plus interest, which probably adds another $3,000 to $4,000 over the life of the loan. So that $450 payment is actually a $30,000 to $31,000 car. And that's before you add the insurance premium you're now paying because you have to carry full coverage on a financed vehicle, before the higher registration fees because it's a newer car, before the dealer fees and taxes that got rolled into the loan, before the inevitable moment 3 years in when your car is worth $16,000 and you still owe $18,000. The monthly payment hides all of that by design. And the really insidious part is that $450 feels normal because everyone around you has a payment around that number. Your coworkers, your friends, your neighbors. You're not doing anything unusual. You're doing exactly what the culture taught you to do. You're doing adulthood correctly. You're also broke, just like all of them. Here's the concept that explains why this is so hard to see. It's called normalized debt. It's the idea that when a financial burden is widespread enough and consistent enough, it stops registering as a burden and starts registering as just life. Think about it. Your parents probably had a car payment. Your friends all have car payments. Every ad, every dealership, every car conversation is framed around the payment. What are you driving? Not do you own it, just what are you driving? When something is universal, your brain stops questioning it. It becomes infrastructure, background noise, a fixed cost of being a functioning adult. But debt isn't infrastructure. Debt is a choice, and a car payment isn't a natural law of the universe. It's a decision that gets made once at a dealership in a room designed specifically to make that decision feel inevitable. And that one decision, a 60-minute conversation 5 years ago, is costing you $640 right now. That's the $450 payment plus the $190 in extra insurance you're carrying. $640 a month. $7,680 a year. Every year. Until the loan ends. And then you do it again because by then the car is old and it feels like time for a new one. So let's run the actual math on what $640 a month costs you over time. Not the car payment, not the insurance, the opportunity cost. What happens if that money goes somewhere else instead? In 5 years, $640 a month invested with modest returns gives you roughly $44,000. In 10 years, you're looking at about $115,000. In 20 years, over $330,000. That's not a made-up number. That's just what happens when $640 compounds instead of disappearing into a depreciating asset. $330,000. That's early retirement. That's financial independence. That's never doing math in a grocery store checkout line again. That's the difference between working because you want to and working because you have no choice. And instead, that money is paying for a car that will be worth $8,000 by the time the loan ends. A car that loses value every single day you own it. A car that is doing the exact opposite of what an investment does. You're lying awake at night sometimes, running through the numbers, wondering why you can't seem to save, wondering what you're doing wrong. There's that low, persistent tightness somewhere in your chest or your stomach that you've gotten so used to you barely notice it anymore. It's just there, the background hum of financial pressure. You've normalized it the same way you normalized the car payment.
Meanwhile, there's someone in your same city making the same $65,000, driving a 4-year-old Honda Civic they paid $14,000 for in cash. Or a 7-year-old Toyota with 90,000 miles that runs perfectly. Their monthly transportation cost is insurance, maybe $95 a month, and maintenance. Total, maybe $150 a month. They're putting $490 more per month into savings than you are every single month. Not because they earn more, not because they're better at budgeting, because they made a different decision at the dealership. They're sleeping. You're lying there doing math. So here's how people who actually build financial security think about cars. And I want to be really clear. This isn't about never having a nice car or driving a dangerous rust bucket forever. It's about how you think about the decision. When a financially calm person looks at a car purchase, they don't ask, can I afford the monthly payment? They ask, what is this vehicle actually costing me per year, all in? Payment, insurance differential, depreciation, maintenance, registration, total annual cost. Then they ask, is that number worth it compared to what else I could do with that money? That's a completely different question than the one the dealership wants you to ask. They also think about cars as transportation, not identity. And I know that sounds obvious, but it isn't. Because somewhere along the way, culture attached status to cars in a way that is genuinely expensive. The car you drive signals something about who you are, how successful you are, whether you've made it. And that signal costs you every single month in the form of a payment. Financially calm people decided to stop paying for that signal, not because they don't care about how things look. Everyone cares a little, but because they did the math and decided freedom was worth more than the signal. When their coworker pulls up in a brand new car and they pull up in their 4-year-old paid off one, they don't feel embarrassed. They feel something closer to satisfaction because they know what their coworker's payment is and they know where their money is going instead. Here's what actually changes when you remove a car payment from your life. That's $640 a month, the payment and the extra insurance, suddenly becomes yours. Actual yours. Not the bank's, not the dealership's. Yours. You stop looking at your bank account on the 15th with that quiet dread. Not because you're suddenly rich, but because the math changed. There's more left at the end of the month. There's room to actually save something. There's a margin. And margin is everything. With margin, a $700 car repair is just a car repair. Annoying, not a crisis, not a month where savings gets wiped out, not a reason to lie awake doing mental math. With margin, you walk into your annual review differently. You're not calculating whether you can afford to push back, whether you can afford to make a demand, whether you can afford to walk away. You already know you can survive a few months without this job. That knowledge changes how you hold yourself in that room. It's physical. Your shoulders are different. Your voice is different. Now, let me say the uncomfortable part clearly. Giving up a car payment is not exciting. Nobody posts about their reliable used car. There's no moment of pride when you tell someone you drive a 2019 Camry with 85,000 miles on it. It doesn't signal success. It doesn't turn heads. But here's what it does. It builds the one thing that actually matters. Not the appearance of doing well. Actual financial stability. The real version, not the performed version. And that's a trade a lot of people won't make. Because the car is visible. Everyone can see the car. Nobody sees your investment account. Nobody sees the $115,000 you're building over 10 years while they're making payments on their third financed vehicle. But you'll feel it every month when the math works. Every time you check your account and there's more than you expected. Every morning you wake up without that low-grade financial anxiety sitting in your chest. So here's the thing about car payments. They're not actually about cars. They're about identity and what we're willing to pay to project a version of ourselves that looks successful before we actually are. Most people pay that cost their entire adult lives, every 5 or 6 years, trading in whatever they owe for something new, rolling the negative equity forward, starting the cycle again. Always a payment, always depleting, always wondering why building wealth feels impossible. But once you see the actual number, not $450 a month, but $330,000 over 20 years, the car looks different. The payment looks different. The trade-off becomes visible. You can drive the car that looks like you've made it, or you can actually make it. Most people spend their whole lives doing the first one, wondering why the second one never seems to arrive. The question isn't whether you can afford the payment. You can. The question is what you're trading away quietly every single month to make it. Thanks for watching.